Welcome.
You have arrived at your destination.
I'm Emily Lutzker.
And I'm Anna Kamathia. Today, International Arrival speaks with interdisciplinary artist Uta Bekaia, a Georgian-born artist who is currently based in Tbilisi. His work centers on the speculative recreation of ancestral rituals, reimagined through a queer utopian lens. Drawing inspiration from traditional crafts, Bekaia creates elaborate wearable sculptures, ceramics, tapestries, and objects which he weaves into immersive installations, films, and live performances.
Thanks for being with us today, Uta.
Thank you for inviting me. Hello. How are you guys?
We're just waking up.
We're waking up. We're waking up, and we know it's the end of your day over there.
It's so wild. I've done so much today already. I went to exercise, I went to dentist, I went to my studio. I did so much stuff, and I just got back home right now. It's crazy, actually.
So you're in Georgia, that is currently independent, but from 1917 to 1991, it was part of the Soviet Union. And it's surrounded by Russia, Iran, Turkey, Armenia, the Black Sea, Azerbaijan. So you're really surrounded by a lot of action at the moment where you are. And so I wondered if you could just start by talking kind of the general atmosphere there and how you're feeling about it.
It always has been a crossroad. It connects West and East in some way because I think half of it is located in Eastern Europe and half of it is considered as Asia. So this is a background of this country of being always somehow in between these cultures, and there's been a lot of action around, honestly, through the history. This country has been here for no one even knows how long. It's a very old country. Historically, it's been here for, I don't know, I don't think anyone knows. We speak this language that is not connected to anything at all. It has its own family. It's not really connected to any Indo-European languages or Asian language, just on its own with its own writing. So it's just, I don't know, it's like kind of an alien language. I have to say, it sounds very strange when you hear it. It sounds almost like something from the movies that are made about like some of the fairy tale movies. And so it's harsh. It sounds old. And then yet it's a new country. It's a newborn too. It's been almost 200 or 300 years that it has been under a Russian rule, and it was before under Persian Empire. There was a lot of wars. There's a lot of huge Greek influence here, a lot of Turkish influence here. So it's a strange location to be. It's also mountainous, Caucasus Mountains, right? That also gives it another flair because there's a lot of people who lived in the mountains who didn't really change. They kept their own ancestral history somehow. So it always has been a strange place. And right now, we have two huge wars happening right next to us. Russia's war on Ukraine, United States, Israel to Iran. So there's like this huge action going on very, very close. So the tension is high. You know what I mean? Like somehow we all pretend in some way that, okay, it's probably going to be okay and fine. Nothing is going to happen here, but you definitely can feel it. And it shifts. The economics are shifting. The people's reaction to things are shifting. People's interest to art is shifting. Everything is changing in a very short period of time after COVID happened. It's an interesting place to be and also very alarming in some way because action is very close from here.
Absolutely.
And we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We're always like walking on this very thin bridge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned last time we talked that you are also receiving a lot of refugees from those countries as they're trying to escape too.
Right. So what happened is once the war started in Ukraine, many of the Russian immigrants, mostly people who can afford to work online. So that means the tech people who can do their job from anywhere. Just thousands and thousands of people came from there. And many of them stayed, many of them moved to other places, but we had this huge wave of Russian immigrants that happened right when the war started. Like a lot of people from Ukraine, Iranian immigrants who ran away from there before because of the regime and now because of the war. This is happening right now, so it's hard to understand how this is going to form. But I have many Iranian friends who had to run, especially queer people or activist women who had to run from there. So there has always been a lot of Iranians, but this wave of Russian immigration was never before, so it's something new. And it's also changing the landscape because it changed the dynamics. Everything got more expensive. Within 1 month period, the city of Tbilisi got gentrified in a very short period of time. So it changed everything. I don't know. Now it's like a bustling city. It used to be very, we thought it was small. So we thought it was more accessible. Everyone knew each other. And in a very short period of time, it became a city of, what is it now? Almost 2 million people. So it became a very hectic city in a short period of time. Toxic too, of course. So it's wild. It's also politically, it's very charged. We'll talk about this too, I'm sure.
Yeah. It sounds a little bit like it's becoming more like New York. It's been of chaos and hecticness, where you were for 20 years. You said to us last time we spoke that you were here in New York. So just tell us a little bit about what made you decide to come to New York, and then what made you decide to move back?
Yeah, it's nothing like New York. Nothing is like New York anywhere in the world, I have to say. New York is a very special place. There is nothing like it anywhere. So I was growing up here in 90s. I was a teenager in 90s. 90s was the time when we got our independence and Soviets crashed and crumbled and they completely fell apart. So what happened here, that system crushed. That means we woke up one day and money was not money anymore, or banking just didn't exist anymore. The factories stopped working. The gas and the electricity stopped working. I mean, everything just crumbled down. So actually, I've seen system crush, which was very dark times because it was like crazy to grow up in the absolute chaos and anarchy in some way. But on the other hand, it just gave me the sensibility of how systems are made, of how easy they can come apart. And I think we live through the time right now where it's actually very visible for everyone in the world. But I experienced it as a young kid. And I was a queer kid in the post-Soviet place where queerness was not even mentioned. I'm not even talking about homophobia. There was nothing. There was no information about it at all. And at that time, the first thing that I found that was queer was the fashion and all the stuff that everything came from West. So I wanted to go there just to be free, to find my place, just to live my life. It was very hard to do it there. I was also very artistic since I was a little kid. My parents told me that I would not be able to do anything with art here. And I knew it too. I applied for universities and to go to study. So how I ended up in New York is like this. I applied for St. Martin's University in London, which is like really fancy fashion school, which was actually very cheap. But for me, it was like crazy expensive at that time. And then my friend was in New York and she said, why don't you come over here? Maybe you can get some kind of job or something and then you can pay it off. So I went to New York and I just got what is that word when you turn to stone? That thing, petrified? Is that a word?
Yes, yes, petrified, exactly.
I literally got petrified by New York City and it just, absorbed me. It's a city where you can very easily get absorbed and lost, and it's crazy and it's wild. So that's how I end up there. And I lived there for 20 years from then on. I consider myself a little bit of a New Yorker too, because I kind of grew up there. I became a man there. I was a kid when I moved there on my own. So it trained me. It was like a very interesting and wild experience to have, but I've learned so much. And I feel like everyone at some point leaves their home and goes somewhere to get, I don't know. It's just a kind of part of human cycle, I feel like. So this was mine. And then why did I return back? I'm sorry if I've been speaking so much, but so why I went back is at some point, again, when I got older and I got over my partying phase, the wild thing about New York is that there's everything from everywhere. So you feel like you're traveling all the time. So that was like so fascinating for me. So at some point then, as I got older, I felt like I wanted to be less selfish and more involved in the, I don't know, in communities, so to say, right? Not just to party, not just to try to find my own career and so on, but just somehow contribute to the community. I think somehow that became more of a priority for me at some point. Just like I was like, sense of belongingness is such a huge thing for human beings, and then feel like you belong somewhere. And then when you do something, then you feel like you are actually human. I was coming back to Tbilisi just for holidays, but then I start to meet the queer kids from here. I came here for that, just to be the part of community again, because I'm older. Everyone is young here. It's very strange because my generation was cursed. Most of the people either emigrated or they died. There's a lot of drug use. There's a lot of heroin at that time here. So many people were addicted. It was very dark. It was very hard on most of the people to be able to survive this system crash. Actually, I was very lucky, I have to say. So then to have someone at my age who's, doing what he's doing, supporting himself and what he's doing, I think is great. And I keep on hearing this all the time that, that's so amazing that there's a queer guy who does this. And so that means I can do it too. So that felt amazing. Nothing feels like that when you feel like you're contributing to the community and then you have some kind of little bit of a feedback. There's nothing like that, honestly. And also I met my boyfriend. So that's another thing.
Love is always a good reason for a move.
Right.
Sounds like you became a role model a bit in Tbilisi.
Yeah, I don't call myself role model. Honestly, I was definitely a base of the community because I was involved in a lot of, especially underground happenings and shows and events and a lot of stuff that was built for queer people to empower themselves. I felt like I belonged somewhere. I felt like I was doing something better than just hanging out.
And when you talk about the underground scene there in Tbilisi, do you mean it's more than the party scene? It's more of an underground art scene? Or a creator scene?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to discuss. It's very hard to describe, honestly. Again, the queer community, including gay men here, are not privileged in any possible way. And as I was saying a little bit about the government and political pressure, the same way as they've chosen immigrants, for example, in States and in Germany, the right-wing governments here, they've chosen queer people as a scapegoat. They're constantly pushing on queer people. They use this as much as they can for their advantage. So then everything went to underground because they actually have a law that says it's like anti-LGBTQ propaganda law, which is very vague and it's hard to understand what that means, honestly. They can use it against you in any way they want. It's hard to find loopholes in this. It's like we read it so many times and it's very hard to understand what is it. What that did is that everything went underground as a queer movement. So it does happen through the clubs, I must say, because clubs are the only safe place. They're like, temples. The government doesn't go in there. It's still a safe
like a
zone.
safe haven. Yeah.
It is, yes. It's strange that they're knocking on the doors there, honestly, but they don't. So then this is a place where anything can flourish. And especially art, because a lot of queer kids are very artistic, so they express themselves as much as they can in these places. And we made this a platform called Fungus at some point, where these kids, I call it kids, they're not like, I'm talking about people who are like 25 when I say kids, but they wrote this manifesto that I will send you guys later if you want. It's so moving and so strong. It's beautiful, and it really describes what the queer movement is like. It's like what this fungus, and it says that it can grow anywhere and it can grow in the toxic places and it doesn't need light to grow, and then it grows in the foundation of these establishments and kind of crumbles them down from inside. They wrote this and it was such an amazing thing, and then we started doing the platform. It was called Fungus for the queer artists to showcase their work online or then as an exhibition. So it's vibrant, it's alive. This is the place where they can express themselves. So if you guys ever come here, please check it out because it's wild and artistic and raw and uncensored in so many levels. And also it has nothing to do with money. So it's not really commercialized in any possible way. So these kids do whatever they want. So it could be really raw sometimes, wild and stupid also, and very smart. I don't know. It has like a lot of layers. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds to me, like we were reminiscing about New York City in the 90s and the 2000s. It sort of has that feeling, that kind of rawness and the freedom to express yourself, whatever messiness it takes. Sort of see how you could be attracted to that. I was certainly attracted to it. But I want to switch to your work because I think we can talk about a lot of connections in culture for a long time, but really I wanted to talk about you as an artist. And I first saw your work at the Outsider Art Fair in New York this year in 2026, where Marissa Newman showed a collection of embroidered and bedazzled plush sculptures of mythical creatures, and they caught my eye. Mm-hmm. And then by talking to her, I later learned of your performance work that relies heavily on elaborate costumes. And you have a background in costuming. Is that correct?
I do. Yes. I come from costuming. I worked in New York. My job was working in the theaters, off-Broadway shows, off-Broadway shows, doing costumes and sets. That's how I made my two pennies in the beginning. That I did a lot of it. I don't remember how many, like 1,000 productions of small theaters with the costumes.
So because of the costume-centric aspects of your work, I can't help but make the connection that gay culture often includes celebrations and exuberant costumes, gay culture, queer culture, diva culture, with parties and a creation of fantasy or alternative identities, drag, dandyism, wigstock, balls, and the sort of dress up aspect, which isn't necessarily performance, but part of a kind of designed life, a way of reinventing oneself to be whatever you dream up. Do you see this as something that inspires you or comes to life in your work? I was looking at Uda Bauhaus Uda, this wonderful piece of yours, blurring the masculine and feminine. And it feels like a self-portrait to me. Can you tell us more about that piece?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The queer culture definitely is very costumed, so to say. I mean, this could be dissected in so many levels. But from my perspective, I was born as not really part of the society because I couldn't fit in because of my sexuality, and then this formed my identity as something that's not really fitting in anywhere. It was like so hard for me to understand those norms that there were, there's just societal norms everywhere. And of course here too. And this country is super Christian. So there was like so many layers of not really understanding what meant what. So I felt like I was, I outcast in some way always, that I couldn't really fit in. And then this feeling of not being able to fit in, then it gives you a little bit of self admiration, I have to say, because at some point then I thought that I was this shamanic person that is very special. So for me personally, the dress up was part of it, because it's a silly thing to say, but I felt like I was a medicine man. I was like someone that can channel energy, a witch, exactly. So the dress up is just part of the ritual. Yeah. Dressing up is probably like a oldest way of artistic self-expression that people did, right? When they put a mask on and you dance around and call the ancestors or gods or whatever. So when I dressed up as a young gentleman or whatever I was at the time, I felt I was channeling something, without even thinking about what it was. I felt like I was just like this entity, some kind of medium that channels something through. And it also it's gender roles and then how they're pursued. And because then bending this just creates this freedom where you don't really have to fit into anything, because again, the gender roles are so pushed upon, and just bending them with a mask or with a costume or whatever makeup is just, it's so empowering, because then you can start from the clean sheet of paper or how you build your personality, so to say. So I think that's what it's
whatever you want to be.
Exactly.
Right?
Be whatever you want to be. And then why? Because you're not really liked anyway. So you don't really care of what people think by the end, because they will not like you anyways. So might as well just go ahead and enjoy that freedom that's been given you. So they say in Georgian, it's like this crazy thing that the insane is free. They say that. So many people told me this, my neighbors, my relatives, they kept on telling me this sentence that, oh, you're insane, so then you're free, And I kind of believed it too. I think that's what it's connected to. Again, everyone has a different idea of what it is, but it's self-preservation, definitely. It's just finding colors in everything, world creating. The queer people, we need to create this more beautiful worlds than actually is, I feel like. So that really helps a lot. Yeah, this question could be dissected in so many levels, and I feel like everyone has their own very personal experience with it.
And it makes me think that that sets up this interesting tension between this freedom to do whatever you want and then your use of older rituals and folkloric symbols. And so there's a really interesting tension then in your work, how you transform these rituals and you queer them, so to speak. And I'm curious as to what made you want to explore the kind of older rituals, and are there perhaps new understandings about queerness or about these rituals that comes through in your kind of blending of this new freedom and these older rituals?
This is a great question, actually. So this is also layered, and it comes from the place of, again, me as a young man and seeing queerness only from the West. As I was growing up, I felt like there was nothing queer about my culture. I'd only think that was queer was from West. As I'm growing up right now, right now, that this has been weaponized and used by the government, that's saying that the queerness is not really from here. It's inserted from the West. It's not natural for this land. It's not nature of hold this place. And they're doing it everywhere. They're doing it everywhere. And I just hear the governments who are trying to weaponize West, they use that as much as they can. Without really thinking about it, I kind of went directly to reclaiming my heritage in some way. Do you know what I mean? Because just so then I find a way to connect to everyone, not just my bubble. I feel this, honestly. I feel like we're in this very strange situation when there's this huge divide between people because of the ideology. And I think it's very, very scary because divide and conquer is the number one thing that any kind of government can do. So then what I'm trying to do with this is that someone who I'll be scared of in general, right? Someone who doesn't really accept me for what I am, for my identity, to talk to them with their own language, because this heritage language is for everyone. Everyone connects to it because it's where you come from and it's something they can grab onto as a society, as a human being. I feel like finding my own way of creating this language that's queer, that is absolutely from here, because I'm here right now, is very, very important. And it does change people. I've seen this being absorbed in a very healthy way. Say that someone who doesn't really understand what queerness means, I'm talking about myself right now. I did this performance when I was dancing as a Quinto, which is this traditional dance from here. And then it was somehow clicked in their head that, okay, this is maybe it was always here. Maybe it's part of me. And we're not really that different. You know, we all live, we eat, we die. So, this creating these bridges, I think is very, very important, especially now because divide is huge and it's very scary to see how more this gap is getting larger and larger. And so it's not from the West, it's from where I am. And then going back to this, my identity, seeing what it gives, and connecting to my heritage and to my ancestry, which I completely denied before because of not being accepted. So now I'm doing this to do opposite of it.
It's interesting. I keep thinking about the word transformation because you talk about like transforming your own self and your own sense of self, and then also transforming people's understanding of the relationship between queerness and rituals and place too, and really taking it back to this idea of time, centering it in time, and also centering it in place of where you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. The transformation is why I do this stuff. And then it touches hearts, it touches people in one way or another. If they want to hear, they can. Also, it's magical, like doing something that is based off of a ritual that probably your grandmother's grandmother did, feels very magical. And it just gives this sensibility that you're like a magical creature, you're like a unicorn. So that's a good feeling. I love a feeling of finding superpowers in myself and being more than.
A lot of people have talked about this sort of inheritance of gesture too, where you do a particular gesture and you realize that it's a similar gesture or an action or an act that your great-great-grandmother or grandfather did. And so I think that's also inherited and we don't realize it. So I think there's something about the enactment of these rituals too that sort of connects you to your other generations through the body as well.
I feel exactly the same. I really do feel exactly the same. And then again, for me, humans are much more magical than we think we are. I feel like there is so much more magic to us than we I don't know, share. Being an artist is an amazing thing because then you can create worlds. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It gives you so much power and it's unlimited essentially. So that's a big part of it too.
I love this, creating worlds. I kept thinking about the different ways you're using language like your own language, and then language in terms of the folkloric language and the visual language and all of these symbols, and that you're so connected to them and you're bringing them into a kind of different reality. I love all of that. Will you tell us the phrase, insanity is freedom in Georgian?
Gigi Tawisupali.
See, it does sound sci-fi futuristic.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like an old language or something from Game of Thrones or something like that.
Both old and new,
Yeah, the country is like that. It's old and new at the same time. It's like a baby that's very old. It's very strange. And it's still in formation. We've been under rule for so long. And now we have to get over this. Somehow it takes generations to really be free. So it's a painful process. But we'll get there.
But also about cycles and renewal, which takes you back to like older agrarian rituals. I think that's a really strong element. And this idea of time.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
For sure. For sure. I want to know more now about the Georgian folklore. I love seeing all of your creatures and even this ongoing project, Queer Deities, that I saw on your website, where you're creating these elaborate costumes, outlandish magical figures. Can you relate one of those maybe to the traditional? Because we don't know them.
Oh, yeah,
here.
they're all related. So the Queer Deity, specifically that project, I'm actually very proud of that project because it's a group project. It's not just me. There is, there's so many people involved in this because, so we do this. We find people who have to emigrate from here because they're queer, from Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, from the South Caucasus. And the people have to run because they can't stay here physically because it's dangerous for them. Mostly it's trans people. Of course, they have to always run because they're never safe. And then for artistic, and we find them, interview them, talk to them, and then I find some kind of mythological fairy tale, anything that kind of would work with their life story, something that they connect to. They tell me things, sometimes they tell me items. Then we find this mythological creature, a deity that is from this region. Then this is what the costumes are actually specifically connected to each person's deity. So we make them as gods. So the end result of this is going to be performance of the 7 deities with the very, very real life stories of why they have to run somewhere. Do you remember? I think he's canceled this Neil Gaiman. He's a writer who wrote this American Gods, which is an amazing book. So it has this story, and was very, very fascinating for me, that idea of how old deities are traveling, So it's somehow connected to that in some way. But then again, it's like very real and very painful life stories connected to old mythology. So that's what's going on there. We're going to have a show of that on 26th of September in Berlin, like performance. Then we're doing this preparation for 2 weeks in Milan for this. And then the year later, we're going to have an exhibition of all the 7 deities with this project named Untitled Project. And they just travel in different places, and they're concentrate on the artists from South Caucasus. This project is very dear for me and very interesting and very strong, and it's coming together wonderfully. And there's so many stories. There's fascinating stories of the people that you learn through it, and they flourish when you turn them into gods.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it too. Now we have to go to Berlin, Anna.
Or maybe I'll bring you to New York at some point.
It would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. So you said it's a group project. Who are the other collaborators that you're working with?
So I'm working with Georgi Rodionov. He's a curator that works with me. And there's 7 different people who are gods and goddesses. There's 7 different people, queer people, who had to leave their homeland to live somewhere else by force, actually.
Yeah. And are their faces covered?
Some are, some are not. Depends. I mean, just also they change. Like sometimes they change costumes during the performance. Some of them are, some of them are not. It varies. Yeah.
Oh, I look forward to seeing that. What else is on the horizon for you?
Oh, what's coming up? Okay, what I'm doing right now is, so I'm going right now within 2 weeks or so. I have this residency in Prague called Meat Factory, which is really wonderful place, and I'm gonna do performance there at this place called Alta Studios with they have Prague Biennale this year, so it's gonna be part of that. I'm doing a performance there that's called Supranational with my dear friend Leah Fieldman. She's actually from Chicago. She teaches at the University of Chicago. And then we started doing this project called Supra. Supra is the Georgian way of saying table setting. And there's a huge tradition of, I'm sure you guys ate Georgian food, right? So there's huge tradition of big tables with layers and layers of food, and people drink and say toast all the time. And it should be very poetic, and sometimes it's not. So we decided to take that tradition and create a common space for different kind of people to speak through the toast. And it's also very theatrical because we costume them, and there is all these things going on there, but it's also talking about the very real stuff in a very theatrical setting. So we're going to have this performance on 27th of June, and it's about censorship. And it will be inspired by Dada and Surrealist movement in the 1920s from this region, and not just from this region in general. I'm doing that. I'm working with Munich State Opera on the opera that's mixed with electronic music together. It's called Techno Queen. It's going to be very, very costume show. I'm doing design at that. And it's like a mixture of tutors. It's a mixture of the story of Anna Boleyn and Mary Stuart and Elizabeth I. It's very interesting plays coming together in the wildest way you can possibly imagine. Wow. And it's Donizetti's opera mix up with electronic music. So it's something very interesting that premieres on 18th of June in Brain Lab. There's this absolutely fascinating facility in Munich. They're concentrated on the brain surgeries and remote brain surgery. So it looks like a spaceship when you go this from different world, different planets. So very technological. We're going to do it there. And as I said, right now, Queer Deities premiere is going to happen in September. And and then in October, I'm coming to New York to this festival called ZEG, which I highly recommend, guys, because it's like a storytelling festival and they bring amazing people and they just tell stories. It's like a wonderful place with a lot of amazing people. So that's going to be, I don't know exact date yet. I think it's still changing, but I think it's going to be at Pioneer Works also. I also don't know that 100%, but it will be in New York. We'll let you know. Please come to that. That would be great. This is what I know right now.
Sounds like a full plate already.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. It's been hectic this year.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been really so fascinating to hear your sort of situation about Georgia as well, that perhaps our audience and I didn't know. And I really love this idea of past and now, and this idea of creation and world building. So thank you.
And magic.
And magic. Yes.
And magic. Thank you, guys. It was really wonderful to talk to you. Thanks for letting me speak.
If you want to know more about Uta's work, you can visit his website at utabekaia.com.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please take a moment to hit the like button, rate us, and review the show. It makes a big difference in helping us reach more listeners.
Your tax-deductible donations make this podcast possible. Please support us at internationalarrivals.org.